Hello, Jarl. I hope I'm saying your name right. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I could be pronouncing it wrong, but I wanted to explain the setup that I have here because we're talking about power consumption. So, let me explain the setup and then we'll talk about the power consumption, okay? So we got a music source here. We got iPhone feeding into the filter board. This is for one channel, right? Because it's a three-way, right? So it's one filter board is feeding here, and I am powering the filter board with the buck converter that I picked up on Amazon. We have a little power supply here. You know, it's a cheap regulated power supply. I'm feeding it 12 volts into the regulator here, and this gives us our positive and negative royals to the filter board. And we got an audio input here, line level, and on the output we have the woofer, the mid-range, and the tweeter. And we have the woofer and mid-range feeding into this TPA amp. It's 50 watts per channel. This is one of my test amps that I use on the test bench for doing things. And then for the high pass, which is the tweeter, I got it powered into this TPA amp. It's 100 watts per channel. I'm only using one channel. I think I paid $12 for it like 2 years ago on Amazon. It's a great little amp. It's a good test amp. And so let's talk about power supplies, okay? So I got the power supply here, which is 12 volts, right? Feeding to the buck converter that powers this board. And these are the measurements that I've been taking. These amps are all on their own separate power supply. This guy, 50 watt amp per channel, he came with his own power supply, little switching power supply. I think it's 19 volts or some shit like that. Yeah, 19 volts. And then this 100 watt amp is powered by this power supply, which is, it's a laptop power supply or something like that. So when I take the voltage measurements, right, the published voltage measurements, I'm measuring right here for the voltage. And if I'm taking amp meter, right, then I, take one of these off and I put the fluke in line. So, the concern is, what do we need to power this board here, right? I'm only worried about what this guy can supply. This guy can supply, if he supplies 5 watts or 4 watts, it's probably more than enough for this guy. So if you're buying an 8 watt buck converter, you should have plenty of headrooms. We're not concerned about the power drain of the amplifiers here because they got their own power supply. Now what you could do, right, you could have one big ass power supply, 340 watt power supply, to drive a couple TPA amps that are driving these drivers here, and then you hook this little board up here and you power that. Yeah, I mean, these are such low current, man. You could probably power these off of a couple batteries if you really needed to. So maybe you're obsessing over the power consumption here, but if you have the 8 watt power converter board that you're planning on buying, dude, I think you're going to be more than fine. And if it doesn't work, I'll buy it from you. All right, I hope this helps you out. And yeah, let's get some good systems going together, man. This is fun shit, dude. Because you don't have to active power supplies. You don't have to worry about impedance and driver parameters. This shit just works. So much easier than developing a passive crossover.